Okay, let's give that one more try. I have it maxed out at like 30 frames per second, and upload speed looks pretty good right now. It doesn't look like I'm dropping any frames. Part of the problem, I think I was recording earlier at the same time, so that doesn't help when you stream, apparently. So we'll see if that helps at all. I'm not sure what's being the big hog right now on my computer, but we'll see if that helps with anything. Alright, cool. So we're back here. So a couple things that still need to fix with the bat. One is that he's getting close enough to attack, but he's not actually hurting Gray. So that's definitely an issue. So we'll look at that real quick. And another is that he's kind of like freaking out right there, especially when it comes to that side. For the other side, it doesn't look like he's really doing anything, but for that side specifically, he's really freaking out. I want to check one thing to see if it's just because he's coming from that side or not. Yeah, he's still flipping out a little bit. Let's see. Alright. Let's take a look at his script one more time here. So he's doing a move to. That's all fine. The target location, move attack. Yeah, so the code I'm using right now is like, this is an original prefab from like the pre-alpha of Light Night when we were in a super big rush for the Ohio Game Dev Expo. So, it's a little sloppy. My goal tonight is to make it work a little bit better, not necessarily less sloppy right now, but we'll see if I get what I need. So I have a feeling that the flip is actually what's causing the issue right now, because it's using this move to X greater than transform.position.X. It's flipping it when it shouldn't be. And I could probably kind of test that. I think I still have a debug statement down here I can get rid of. Yeah. Well, maybe I did comment it out already. Oh wait, it's right here. Yeah, that guy's gonna go away. Yeah, you can see like kind of this old code that I commented out earlier because it's just really crappy. And this is very unorganized up here. Like typically I line up headers, and when you have headers you can actually see like specifically what variables are in your editor, and it makes it really nice. So like you could have like the flight speeds, animation, all that kind of stuff, which makes things really, really nice. But at the same time, they're only nice if you maintain them, and I have not for the bat, so he's a little crazy right now. My recommendation for good C# tutorials, I honestly learned myself. I didn't have any kind of like formal training or anything like that. I would recommend the unity.com/learn site. As far as object-oriented programming goes, if you're interested in just making games, you can try a program called GameSalad. And what GameSalad is it's basically teaches you the fundamentals of programming, but without actually programming. You do a bunch of like for loops, variables, functions, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's basically how everyone starts it out. So you'll start out with like the Hello World examples and stuff like that. But yeah, check out Unity Learn. Check out lynda.com is a really, really good resource too. And then if you ever get stuck on stuff, Unity has like huge amount of forums on there too. But yeah, if you're just getting into programming, check out GameSalad because it's kind of like a no-code type of situations where you can learn all the fundamentals of programming but without coding. And then when you come back to a language like C# or Unity, it's the same stuff. It's all just syntax at that point. So that would be my recommendation. I've messed around with GameSalad for like prototyping because it is very, very quick, and that helps a lot. But Unity, if you're gonna do 3D games and stuff like that, like I would argue that there's not really a better community right now to learn from than the Unity off a Unity site. But it also depends entirely on what kind of game you're trying to make. So the game itself is called Light Night, and I can kind of let me just run through real quick because I don't think I've showed everybody in here some of the new features and stuff like that anyway since the last time. So the plan for this game is going to be 4-player co-op dungeon crawler, but we aren't restricting anybody to the same screen, so it's going to be split screen, so you can kind of run off and do your own thing, which we think will be a little bit more fun. Because when you play games like Rayman Legends, or you play games like what's that really fun dungeon crawler that came out a while ago? Dragon's Crown. Dragon's Crown was a fantastic dungeon crawler. It wasn't even a dungeon crawler, it was a brawler. But just being restricted on the same like screen drives me crazy. So we aren't going to restrict anybody to the same screen. We're going to have 7 different playable characters. It's going to be a mix between like a brawler, platformer, and like a dungeon crawler type of thing. So you can kind of think of like maybe a mix between Dragon's Crown and Rayman would probably be one of the best examples of it. And there's going to be a really big focus on the light that you carry. So right now, this is our main character that we have called Sir Grey. And he has a light attached to his hip, and basically there's light recharge stations throughout the area where you can recharge your light. And the light's going to play a big role because you can kind of see these enemies. They have like yellow eyes when they walk around, but then when they see me, their eyes turn red, and they're going to chase after me. The light will actually kind of force their eyes to change back to yellow, and simultaneously it's going to make them like easier to kill. They won't be able to attack as fast, all of that kind of stuff. But when your light goes out, the enemies are going to be a lot harder. Now, where that kind of comes into play later is that enemies later on in the game, especially if you're playing with your friends, you're going to be able to kind of like team up together. So if one person has light and nobody else does, you can kind of buddy up with him, and that way you can use his light for your benefit. Or when you team up, you get kind of like a multiplier for everyone having a light. So it kind of just adds on to that effect. Or you could split up, and then if you get stuck in the dark and you're surrounded by a bunch of enemies, you can get kind of stuck that way. Light's also important because it makes it harder to see these little traps that we have set up. So you can see there's a little switch right there, but without your light it becomes like increasingly difficult to see that. So if you're running along and you step on one of the switches, it could kill you too. And then we're also going to have some technological aspects in it too. So not to give away like much of the story or anything like that, but Gray's going to have like some actual guns and stuff like that that you can use instead of just the typical like crossbows and stuff. Like this is a small example, so you got like frayed wires and stuff right here. They're shooting sparks out, and this gigantic engine-looking thingy in the background. So it takes place in a time where it's more like medieval and stuff like that, but then there's going to be a certain twist in the storyline that allows for like a bunch of like future tech, and Gray's going to be riding around in a mech at one point, so it should be really, really cool. We're also going to be implementing a behavior tree. Well, it's called a behavior tree for our enemies. So instead of having these basic kind of like patrolling enemies that you see in a lot of games, the enemies will be able to make decisions based on like their surroundings. Like if they see you and then you try to evade them and you go jumping up something or falling down a corridor or climbing a ladder, like they'll be smart enough to track you down or try to track you down for a certain amount of time. And they'll also be able to like kind of tell like what the situation is. Like if their health is low, they might be more likely to defend or run away versus staying and fighting. And then there is an area with an alpha ogre down here at the end that I'm working on the cinematic for. So here in a second, Gray's going to freak out when he approaches. So you got this big guy. And then Gray's going to freak out, but I haven't finished the cinematic for that part yet. So that's pretty much where like the demo is right now. But it's getting a little bit closer every day. Multiplayer is already actually set up for it. I just have like a one-player version right here that I'm working on. Yeah, again, I mean, if you're trying to learn C#, I mean, my biggest recommendation when it comes to learning any kind of code is to I'd say simply pick out a project that you want to do, and then you can run around all over the place. Like when I was writing my character controller, I wasn't like running around like oh, I'm just going to code it from scratch and I'm just going to assume I know how to do a wall slide. You just check out all the communities, like, hey, has anyone done wall slides before? And that's where I got the idea for these wall checks. So you can see there's like a front wall check and a back wall check, so that just determines whether or not he's touching a wall, and then it just becomes a process of elimination. Like, so you're saying if he's touching a wall, that's great, but he also has to be in the air. So then you have variables like whether they're grounded or not, and that's actually what this ground check is. So the ground check checks to see if he's on the ground. So if he's not on the ground and he's touching a wall, then you go into a wall slide. So yeah, pick out a project. And then another thing you really need to do in game programming is actually write out kind of the steps that you want to happen. And then you can tackle it step by step until you get the end result you want versus just kind of like flying into it blind. I know when I first got into Unity, it was really, really confusing and really overwhelming because I've never worked in anything that's like 3D. So just the 3D space really threw me for a loop for a while. So it can be really, really overwhelming. I was a big Flash fanboy for a long time, so it's pretty tricky. Yeah, survival game would be fun. So by survival game, are you talking about something like crafting and stuff like that too, or you're talking about something like oh, what's that really popular one? The one with a really cool art style where you're running around, where you could starve. Don't Starve. Yeah, like Don't Starve maybe. Or are you talking about like survival horror maybe? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, crafting games are really, really popular right now, so that's a really popular genre to be in. As far as crafting goes, that can be kind of tricky because you have to set up like libraries and stuff like that for like all of the different items you can craft. So I could see how that could get tricky too. But yeah, if you ever need any like tips or anything like that, you can actually hit me up on Skype if you want. I'll put my Skype handle in here. Yeah, if you ever have any questions or anything like that, I'm pretty much always on Skype, so if you want to hit me up with a question, feel free. No problem. Alright, so I'm going to get back to the bat here real quick. And like I said before, for some reason he's not actually hitting the character. And again, it's been a long time since I've actually messed around with this character, so I need to find out where exactly that's happening at. So right now, he's got a collider here, but he also has a collider inside of him, which is weird. But that's actually a trigger, maybe? Let's see. He's got attack. And then he's got a sonar. And his target. There's not really a lot going on here. This looks like a kill box here. Let me check a couple things real quick. Okay. Let's take a look here, because I know there's a collider script in here somewhere. Alright, so let's check in. Normal. Yeah, I've got you added a Skype there already, on. Alright, let's see. So tracking. So it's interesting too, because there is a hit method in here, but it's absolutely blank, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if I actually had the outside collider like labeled as something specific, so it's on an enemy layer. I wonder if I had this on like hazard or something originally, so it would just like kind of hit you automatically when you got close. Which actually might not be that bad. Because that should be where he kind of hits you at. I might just write another script real quick for this to manage his attack. So I've already got access to the skeleton. The sorting layer. And the collider. Oh wait, here's back collider too. Here we go. So we have right here if it's equal to tag, or if the tag's equal to player, and he's a health manager. So right now this actually should be giving me something, because I guarantee that collider is actually over top of gray. It's probably this that is acting kind of crazy. Yeah, because it's sending a message take damage. I'm pretty sure that message doesn't exist anymore. So that might be throwing an error actually. Damage equals true and bad. Control. Dead equals false. Let's get another message out here real quick. So let's say touching player, so that way I know he's actually that close. I hate when it does that. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of some of these debug messages in here because they're just gonna clog everything up. What do I have? Yeah, so I haven't fixed the flip yet. I'll fix that in a minute. I want to actually get him attacking again. Oh, thanks for the follow, man. We don't have any cool like flashy pop-ups or anything like that when people follow right now, but we'll get them in there eventually. Obviously busy with a bunch of other stuff. Let's see. So yeah, how did I start? Or did I start with C#? I didn't start with C#. I've been coding for a while. Honestly, I'm trying to think of what I started with first, if it was Flash or with like web development stuff. But did web development for a long time, lots of JavaScript, which can be object-oriented, but isn't really naturally object-oriented in my opinion. Lots of stuff like jQuery. So I've been around code for a while. I'm not a fan of like Java or anything like that. Freaking Java can eat it. But C# is oh, that's Tyler posting messages in there. That's funny. But yeah, went from basically like if you learned like Flash or Flash Builder or ActionScript 3.0, like I kind of agree with a lot of people that Flash is dead as far as like making games is concerned. It used to be like the go-to technology for it because everybody had Flash Player. And a lot of people still do make Flash games, and they make great Flash games, but it's not realistic for what we want to do, because we want to get some games on like consoles and PC and Mac and stuff like that, and Unity absolutely deploys to everything. So I kind of learned, I learned C# almost like just out of necessity, because I've heard it compiles a little bit faster and stuff like that for Unity. And Unity makes it kind of easy just because you can divide up all your scripts into different objects and create prefabs. So you basically create every little character like its own character with its own behaviors and everything like that. You can make them a little bit more broad. Like, I think an example is the Goblin. Just to give you an example here. So the Goblin has a script called Goblin Controls, and he's got all these different variables in here. That kind of control what the Goblin does, but these controls specifically could be modified a little bit, so you have all these different variables. So when it came to making the Ogre also uses the same exact script, so even though he's not a Goblin, he uses the Goblin control script, and you just change the variables around. So you change the variables to make it more like an Ogre, so you switched out the Goblin's particles with his blood particles. You switched out the explosion with the Ogre's explosion. Just stuff like that to make it a little bit different, and then you could be more generic with it. So I did the same thing with like Sir Gray's character controller. Like I said, I worked on for a really long time to try and get it like just right with a lot of stuff. His jump's a little high right now just because I made some recent adjustments to him, but his controller has a lot of stuff going on in it. But I kind of set it up just thinking forward to like all the different other characters. So hopefully when it comes to making other characters, I'm just going to be able to swap out these variables and set them all up as prefabs. And that way you don't have to code and code and code and code all over again. You just reset your variables the way you want them to be. So this player right now, I actually haven't refreshed him recently, but if I clicked apply, that'll set him up as a prefab again. So you can see he's blue. So I could click and drag more of Sir Grey out into the world if I wanted to, and that's kind of the way that works. But yeah, if you have any more like specific questions, man, we could talk via Skype, or I mean, feel free to ask through here too. It's no big deal. I'll show you whatever. Okay, so I want to check for that overlap. So we're going to be looking for that debug message right here that says touching player. Okay, let me see. Okay, so right here we're getting an issue right here too. So let's take a look at that. So I did get that touching player message, so it is actually hitting that. But what I'm more interested in is this right here. Okay, so this might be part of the reason he's freaking out too. So I have that on trigger stay. Yeah, so it's freaking out right here. This is the reason he's not actually taking any damage from the bat when he gets that close. So we're gonna mess with this a little bit. And I'll get you that website right now, because anyone in here wants to learn like Unity or C#, I'm telling you, like, it's one of those things you don't really need school for anymore. Like, not to bash school or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. But even, like, I'm going back to school right now, and what they're teaching me is something I'm never, ever, ever going to use to make a game. It's like this weird like little like learning application called Alice, and it's like the most simple, crazy thing ever. But like just things like making your own engine sometimes aren't like realistic anymore, but that's a lot of what they'll teach you and stuff in school, I feel like. And again, I might be wrong. I mean school is great, but I learned all of my stuff from Unity's resources and all that kind of stuff. So I have a link to you here. Let's post that in here real quick. So that's the website I would start out at if you're interested in learning any of this stuff. And again, just like download Unity. If you have Unity, that's great. But you can kind of see from there like just basically what you want to work on. And I would recommend starting with, where's it at? It's not UI, not 2D. Editor. So start with the section just editor, because that helps you understand. That's what I started with when I got overwhelmed, like initially getting into Unity. But just knowing what everything does in the editor is such a huge relief. So definitely check that out. Yeah, if you have Unity installed, just follow along with some of the tuts that they have. And those are fantastic. And then for more advanced scripting stuff, you can check out some place like lynda.com or something like that. They have like advanced C# courses, which I'm not sure how much that actually helps you, because Unity and Mono Develop and stuff like that, they have a lot of like really smart code hinting stuff. Makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so this thing's freaking out right here. And so I have if damage equals true, so that one's fine. But then I have if bat control.dead equals false. So I wonder if bat control is disconnected right there. Yeah, so you can see like bat controller, there's no bat control right there. And now there is. And there's also no bat explosion, so let's see if that actually dodges that error for me. Okay, There we go. So there's the second part of it. So you can see it's trying to call that function take damage, but it doesn't actually exist there anymore. It exists in the controller. So we're going to have to make that a little bit different too. Okay, so we got damage equals false, that's fine. Hit object, transform, send message, take damage. Okay, so it's just sending a message, which is kind of a very broad thing to do. If you have a function that you want to call in another class that you're like touching when it comes to this method, you can simply send it a message to its transform, and regardless of like what kind of scripts it has in it, it's going to look through every script that's attached to it and try to send the message take damage. But take damage doesn't exist anywhere anymore, like I said, so I need to find that in the actual character controller real quick. So as far as having the alpha done, it'll be pretty close to either the start of our Kickstarter or probably like middle of our Kickstarter, I think. So probably here within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say. I just have a lot of stuff to clean up. Like really, this is the like pre-alpha level, and we have stuff like a start screen, but we don't have like like character select or credits or anything like that too. So a few things to work on, especially that end cinematic where like Gray freaks out and it zooms in on him. I still have a lot of work to do on that. That might actually be dedicated to another Twitch feed because there's a lot of fun stuff you could do with like the cameras and like camera shaking and stuff like that to add a lot of impact to it. But a lot's been added so far. I'm not sure if we're going to make the alpha multiplayer or not because we still have a lot of testing to do on that. It works with multiplayer right now, but I'm not sure if we'll have it set up for multiplayer. So yeah, just something to think about. Okay, so I need to get to the controller for Gray, which is right in here. So I've got his controller, so I think the new actual function is hit. That's what I started using for everything. So if you get hit, it's gonna hit the particles. But you know what, that's probably not it. It might be his health manager script. Yeah, so see, this is the issue right here. So take damage is something that you can actually receive, but you need to actually pass along a variable to it. And in this case, it's looking for a variable for damage. Oh. Yeah, no problem, Creepy Creeper 69. Go ahead and ask whatever questions you want to in here. Again, guys, too, I know I've mentioned it a few times. I'm not sure how long everyone's been on here right now, but I do have a code for Super Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition. So that's a Steam code download. So if anyone's interested in that, just shoot an email to contact@fearremain.com. And I have one code to give away, so we'll just choose at random at the end. Let's see. Okay, so again, back to that health manager. So the Yeah, so the one we want to call is take damage right there, but we need to pass along a variable too. So we have the send message take damage, and I believe we can pass through one parameter here. So I just want to try passing through one, and let's see if that flies. I'm not sure if that's the correct way to pass through a variable when it comes to send message. If not, we can do a couple of other different things. We could actually grab the health manager script and call that method directly, which is what I normally like to do. I feel like it's a little bit cleaner than just sending a broad message, but we'll try that in just a second. I'm actually already getting it right here. Oh, you can just email whatever. Like, hey, what's up? I want the Street Fighter code. It doesn't matter. I think that's just how we chose to actually do the drawing and stuff tonight, just so we can contact people directly back. And we aren't going to spam you or anything like that. It's literally just for the code. It's the only way I could think of just to send out a random code instead of just putting it in the stream and having you guys like race to go download it somewhere. So let's try that real quick and just see if it'll send a parameter through. If not, we'll grab the actual script. Shouldn't be hard to do. Alright, so here he comes. Yep, and he actually hits me. And you can tell it's actually going to reset the damage meter too. So it'll reset every time he hits me, so that way he's not hitting me constantly. And there he just killed Gray. And I should be able to kill him right back right now. So he's getting pretty close. One thing the bat's supposed to do is when he hits the ground, he's supposed to actually explode, and I'm pretty sure that's having issues too, because he's actually going straight through the floor. So if I hit the bat right now, let me see. Yeah, so you see the variable bat explosion of bat collider has not been assigned right here. And so Unity's pretty smart at telling you what you did wrong. So I don't have the actual bat explosion like assigned anywhere, so it doesn't know where to find it at. Okay. Is anyone having any kind of lag issues either? I just need to make sure so I can keep the right settings for my stream so it's not all screwy next time. I feel like half the time, every time I stream, it's like a half hour of adjusting the stream so everyone can see everything. Let's see. Okay, so that's a bad explosion. That's not a big deal right now. What is a big deal is that flipping and actually the take damage part too. So there's a couple things I want to check for when it comes to taking damage. I think I'm going to set a timer at the beginning to add a little bit of lag when he gets too close. Besides the things for following. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for confirming it's not lagging. Appreciate that. Oh, okay. Yeah, like I said a little bit earlier in the feed, like when it comes to just to setting up your code, especially when it comes to object-oriented programming, which is essentially what you're doing with any kind of game. First of all, like any tutorials that you do, oh, I had a typo in that. I had a typo in the actual email. Okay. But yeah, if you set up your objects correctly right out of the gate, then it makes things a lot easier, especially when it comes to reusing them. So I have a health manager script right here that I apply like everything that is going to take damage. So it's very, very broad. Um, and then I even remanipulated it so it'll relay like an actual percentage back. And it makes it easier for me when it comes to things like the health meter and stuff like that for all the different players, because they'll all have like different health levels and stuff. When it comes to variables, just keeping everything organized. So like you can see the controller has a bunch of different headers and stuff in it. So you have like animation names, animation speed controls, slash flash animations, particles, all that kind of stuff, just dividing things up so you don't lose track. Because you can see there's probably, I don't know, close to 40 variables right here. And that can get really confusing really quick unless you actually give stuff a meaningful name and organize them correctly. And as I've gone along, even with this game, because there's been periods where you get like really, really rushed, you'll write sloppy code, and that's exactly what I'm doing tonight, is trying to fix this bat, because the bat was originally done really, really quickly for an event, and he's written really sloppy. So going back in to fix him and just make sure he still works with everything is a bit of a challenge, just because the code is kind of in a sloppy state. But yeah, just trying to keep your code clean and just always remembering that you want to make it reusable. Another thing is just find the right tool for the kind of game you want to make. If you want to make something small, quick, and app, and you just want to learn some basics about coding, I'd strongly, strongly recommend looking into something like GameSalad, which I think is just like gamesalad.com. But that's an area where you can actually go, and it's another application similar to like Unity, another game engine, but it has a lot of click and drag options instead of real code. And the click and drag options, although you aren't actually coding anything, they teach you the fundamentals like for loops and variables and functions and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of helped me out a lot, honestly, too, when it came to game programming. It's just understanding like all the different loops and stuff involved. Yeah, but high school is a good time to start. Like, you don't need like advanced learning or anything. Like, I don't have a degree in game programming or anything like that. You can just basically learn everything you need to online right now for free, which is crazy. So I think for this, I'm actually gonna like do an initial delay for him too. Let me think of the best way I'm gonna do that actually. So I'll do something real quick. So do private pool. I'll do an attack delay. It's not a bool, sorry. It's going to be a float. And initially, let's just set that to 3. And so instead, what I'm going to do in this is if he's touching them and all that kind of stuff, it's going to add onto the attack delay until it reaches 3. And then once the attack delay is 3, it'll run everything else. So we'll see what kind of delay that gets us actually. So we'll say attack delay plus equals time dot delta time. And then I could say if attack delay is greater than 3, then run all this other stuff. Say, yeah, that should be fine. So that'll do an additional delay at the beginning of the attack to make it so that you can actually have a second to react when the bat gets up there, or if you hit him with your sword, it's not going to hit you at the same time, because that would be really annoying. So I'm going to try this real quick. I want to see how long it takes for the bat to actually hit me now. pretty much almost immediately. One thing that's really driving me crazy right now is kind of his ridiculous jump, because he jumps way up there right now. So I'm going to actually take him down a little bit. Oh. There we go. Another thing we need to do that we didn't earlier was actually reset attack delay, so it's back to 0. Yeah, exactly. He's got just an absolutely crazy jump right now. Yeah, being able to be like the artist and the developer is really, really tricky. I've tried that before with like the Game Salad stuff, and luckily my brother Tyler is like a freaking crazy good illustrator and artist, so I don't need to try and do anything like that on my own anymore. But yeah, it's incredibly difficult. It actually makes things a little bit easier, because then you can size everything like exactly the way you need to. There's no like back and forth or anything like that. But it's just a lot of work. It's just an incredible amount of work. And I can relate. So it looked like it took the bat a little bit longer to hit me. I don't think he even actually hit me that time, so I'm going to test it again real quick just to make sure the bat actually will hit me after a certain period of time. So he flies in here. Actually got tired of me. There we go. Now, obviously that's way too long. We want him to have maybe like half a second before he gets hit. So let's try changing this to, let's cut it down by 1/3 of the time. I just want to see where that gets us real quick. Alright, so back to it here. Still pretty slow. Alrighty. That's Tyler typing in the comments right there about art being better. That's funny. Oh, take up art, it's better. That's funny. Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually started going to school for game development a while ago. Well, a long time ago, like 7 years ago. And they got rid of it like halfway through my degree. And I just recently started going back to school, but like I said, I mean, you can learn like everything you need to learn online. Okay. Okay, in that case, if you actually want to work at a game development company, then you're definitely going to want to go to school for that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can make indie games right now, man. I mean, there's stuff like game jams and stuff like that. Like, we missed out on Global Game Jam just, what, like this past weekend or something? But that's something we've been wanting to do for a while. But do some game jams, just make some games, just so you have some experience, and that way you have a portfolio and stuff like that, man. But C# is probably a good language to learn in that case, because a lot of the big people, like if they're making Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, and I mean even like people like Bethesda and stuff like that use a lot of I think they use a lot of C, and so C# has a lot of, I mean, it's based off of C, so it has a lot of similarities. So that would definitely be a good language to learn. Alright, so that attack delay is obviously way too slow still. I'm going to cut it down even more to see where that gets us. just check out the tutorials, man. Check out the tutorials, follow along, and give yourself a project. And ask me questions on Skype. There we go. I think that still feels like a little bit of a lag. Because you're going to want to react and smack him as soon as he touches you. Oh yeah. Well, if you need to learn for free, man, I'm all about that. I'm not about spending money on learning. Which sounds absolutely insane when I say it. And everyone who's ever gone to college is going to freaking hate me for saying that. I'm going back to college, so I can't. I mean, I'm going back to college right now. I got homework and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, if you want to make it. Okay, yeah, so you make a test game like Candy Crush, you could look up, like, how do I make a grid in Unity for, like, a game like Candy Crush. Like, obviously it's going to be, like, 2D stuff. Or a game like Bejeweled, that type of thing is kind of like the same idea. I've never played Candy Crush. A million people a day invite me to play Candy Crush and all that kind of stuff, and I just don't want to. But yeah, doing games like that, I mean, there's got to be tutorials out there for Unity for it. I almost guarantee it. But yeah, Creeper69, that link I just posted right there has like all of the tutorials for Unity 3D, and a lot of C# stuff. And you can actually see the examples after they go through it, like down below the tutorial. So it's a really good way to learn right there. Oh, I just realized it's 10 o'clock too. So, yeah, me too all the time. Okay, so I'm actually out of time for this stream right now. But yeah, feel free to come back again next Tuesday if you have more questions about programming and stuff. I'm going to continue on. I'll probably have the bat done tonight because I'm going to keep coding. The bat will be done tonight, but then I'm going to move on to doing like the end cinematic and stuff like that, so hopefully I'll have that to show off next time. And probably pretty much all of the pre-alpha is going to be ready to go. So it'll just be a lot of polish probably next time, so I'll have time to answer questions for you guys if you want to join in again next time. Creeper69, if you want to give us a follow, we'd really appreciate it, and you'll get notifications when we come back on. And you can feel free to shoot questions. Yeah, sorry, or Thursday. So Thursday's an art day, but I normally moderate and stuff like that while Tyler works on the illustrations, so even if you have code questions then, you can type them in there. Or tomorrow. Yeah. I wish I could. I'm a very, very busy person most of the time, man. Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Creeper69, for the follow. Appreciate it. But yeah, if you want to, I'll post my, let's see, I'll post my Skype handle in the chat again. Oh, jeez, freaking. Yeah, that's Tyler posting in there too, so yeah, I will be around to answer code questions about Tyler paints all kinds of stuff. I don't know if you guys saw what he painted last time, but he painted like a female version of Gray, and she was woof, man. Freaking, whew, scary. But yeah, if you have any more questions, guys, feel free to hit me up on Skype. I'm pretty much always on Skype all the time. I've been helping out some other teams with code questions and stuff like that, so if I don't get back to you right away, I mean, I'll always answer probably within the day if you have like code questions on stuff or need resources or anything like that. Another one to check out is pixelprospector.com, and I'll post that in there too. Just make sure I freaking spell the thing right. And that's if you want to get like real with like the indie programming scene, because they have an absolutely like just a huge amount of resources on there. And I'll post that in here too. It was bad. Anyone, well, go to Facebook and you guys can see the lady version of Gray if you go to the Facebook thing. I have talked about streaming just whenever, just hopping on and streaming, so I might make that a reality if there's enough requests for it. But thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. I'm like 4 minutes over right now, so I'm going to go ahead and close off the stream. But if you guys have any questions, I mean, feel free to hit me up on Skype, all right? All right, thanks a lot, guys.